Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Activate and Illuminate podcast with Mel. I'm your host, Mel. Together, we're going to be diving into some stories of ordinary people doing a little bit of extraordinary things. People who've maybe pushed their bodies, their mindsets, or maybe society's paradigms. So you're going to find yourself maybe wanting to laugh, cry, or even be inspired. We would invite you to share, like, and subscribe, to sign up for our newsletter as well on activateandilluminate.com. Now, just keep in mind that this information that you are going to hear is informational and educational for entertainment purposes only. This does not constitute professional advice of any kind. The views expressed are those of myself and guests only. Listeners are encouraged to seek professional and legal advice regarding their own situations. So, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time, and thanks again for being here. Hey there, activators. So I just got done recording, and I'm going to do this intro right away because I'm just so excited by it. Now, I was able to speak with a young lady, Kayla Pollock. She's from Ontario. She is presently one of the few people here in Canada that is actually suing Moderna. She became a quadriplegic after one of her COVID shots. And her story is fascinating. I learned a lot through it. I feel like I even cried, to be honest with you. But you're going to want to check it out. She did not have an easy life even before this, but she certainly has grit. She certainly has determination. And there's a lot of eyes on her right now. And I just want to give her all of our best wishes and thoughts, and if we can help in any small way to bring awareness to this story, we certainly will. So stay tuned and listen to Kayla Pollock. Hi guys, welcome. And today I have with us Kayla Pollock. Now, Kayla has a fascinating story. I am going to let her tell her story. She has She's a pretty incredible gal. You may have seen her. You may have seen her online. And Kayla, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are right now, and what brought this notoriety on.
Well, I guess to start, first and foremost, I'm a mother. I've got a son who's about to turn 11. And at the time that this happened, I had been working with exotic animals, but I had ended up, because it was dangerous, I ended up changing careers and I ended up working with kindergarten children instead, which turned out to be just as dangerous. But um, I worked at my son's school, and when this happened, and it
Tell
was
us
during
what did happen.
so it was during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I was exposed to all the kids. I was working in kindergarten, so it was quite, there was a lot of scare tactics being told on the news that people. I'm type 1 diabetic, and there was people saying that if you're, a diabetic, you're going to die if you get COVID, and a lot of just coercion and scare tactics. So my father was also passing away in long-term care. And in order to go see him, I got vaccinated. And after I had my Moderna shot, I ended up having neurological symptoms just days after, where my legs would give out and felt like I was paralyzed in my legs. And then, you know what, like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it was later, they would start to work again. I did talk to my doctor and say, like, I'm going to need to see a neurologist. And unfortunately, we live in Canada and the wait times are like, could be a year or more. For neurologists in my area right now, it's a 3-year waiting list. I still don't have a neurologist. It's been 3 years. So after that had happened, I went for a hike one day, nothing out of the ordinary. I was supposed to go to school. It was on a long weekend. I was supposed to go to school the next day, and wake up early for to take a colleague shift. And I woke up, and when I woke up, I couldn't move anything from my neck down. And I knew right away that I was quadriplegic, and I knew it was from my vaccine because the symptoms started right after taking my vaccine. So I went to my local hospital where they immediately diagnosed it as all in my head. They said that it was probably a psychiatric condition and, that doesn't happen. So that was with no tests. They didn't do any tests. Then a doctor came in. Eventually, I was in the hallway and I all of a sudden just started screaming out in pain for a very long time. I was just having this excruciating neck pain and it was awful. And I noticed that instead of they weren't giving me psychiatric meds, they were giving me hydromorphone at the time for by IV in order to combat the pain. So I'm thinking, if they're giving me real pain meds, then they know there's real pain going on. So at that point in time, the first doctor had gone off shift in the ER because I was sitting there so long. And another doctor came to me and said, I don't think that this is in your head at all. I have a friend who's a radiologist who's willing to read your reports at home if you go in the CAT scan right now and get an MRI as well. And I'm like, absolutely. That took hours. I did with and without contrast. It took a long time. And sure enough, they found out that I was quadriplegic because I came in saying I'm quadriplegic. I can't move. I can't move all four of my limbs. Like, that's the definition. I thought maybe I had Guillain-Barré, but it was a little later than Guillain-Barré usually onsets, so I wasn't 100% sure. But I wasn't worried about cancer or MS or all those other things because it was too quick. Like,
Yeah.
that's not how those things come on. But they did have to rule out everything. I mean, I was tested for COVID, of course. I was tested for MS. I was tested for cancer. I was tested for infection. I was tested for everything you can think of to make viruses, just to make sure that there was nothing else that could have led to this. And ultimately, I was diagnosed with transverse myelitis from my COVID vaccine, which is something that occurs when your body gets either a virus or a vaccine is a common way to get it. And instead of recognizing the vaccine as something that's supposed to be helpful, this vaccine has been commonly known to instead cause people's immune systems to attack themselves. Mine attacked my spinal cord and caused massive inflammation, which is basically almost like breaking your back. It's the inflammation so bad that it cuts off the signals. So I can't go to the washroom on my own. I can't move my legs at all. I can't move below my chest. I can't get out of my wheelchair on my own. I can't get into bed. I can't dress myself. I can't do a lot of things. And my arm movement is limited, and there's a lot of damage done to my fingers and the outsides of my arms and stuff. And it's 3 years later, and nothing has gotten any better since the original.
Wow.
This episode brought to you by protandemcanada.lifevantage.com. What if you could turn on your body to work like it was supposed to? What if you could have it remember how to handle toxins, stress, and the environment like it used to when you were young? What if it worked for your pets too? What if this is not about supplementing something that is missing, but activating something that has gone dormant? About actually turning on your body to make these things again. Learn how to activate your body now. Check us out, protandemcanada.lifevantage.com.
So many places we can go with this, but what did has anybody ever officially admitted that this was a vaccine injury?
Yes, it says that in my medical papers.
Okay.
And I did get an audio recording of my neurologist at the time who said that he didn't. This is right before they were ruling out cancer in the MRI. They had to just check. He said, I don't think it's cancer. My gut feeling is that this is from the vaccine. And I said, have you seen that before? And he said, oh yeah, many, many times. And that's, so he knew, and it is in my medical records. So yes, it's been confirmed. I did try a lot of different avenues to get help. Like I went to the Vaccine Injury Compensation Board and applied like so many other Canadians that were promised that if this vaccine went wrong, they were going to be compensated and they wouldn't have to worry about it. Their medical care would be taken care of. Their cost of losing their job would be taken care of. They wouldn't have to worry, they'd be compensated and they wouldn't have to worry. And I just was on Global News breaking a story about the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program and the fact that, Canada gave them over $50 million and $37 million of that was spent on just administration costs. Then they had a
$37
whistle.
million of
Yeah,
a 50
yeah.
million.
Yeah, only 16 million was ever spent on victims. And
Wow.
there's only very few that have been approved, but part of the is not just because there aren't actual vaccine injured people. It's because like one of the whistleblowers that worked there said they had drinking Fridays, bring your dog to work day, they had a ping pong table, they watched Netflix at work, and there was a slushy machine. So this is the type of workplace that you're getting these people in. And they said, no, we didn't really care about the people. Like none of us knew what we were doing. And we just sort of like put their papers from one caseworker to another, which is like my friend, she was approved and she's on her 11th caseworker.
Wow.
So it was a scam, and it will be brought up in the House of Commons when it opens in September. The Conservatives are all over the fact that the Liberals had reason to give it to Oxoro, the company they gave it to. There were other companies that could have done it. We have a vaccine injury program in Quebec that there's companies there that could have handled it. There's other things. But this is just an example of our tax dollars at waste. And getting help from the medical system in Canada right now is absolutely impossible. The system's overworked, overused, understaffed. Our medical system is completely broken and completely in shambles. And you are literally either left to die at home, left to die in a hospital, or left to die in long-term care. You're on your own. So if you're like me and you don't have family to take care of you, then you are absolutely just not going to make it. It's not good at all. And I needed to come forward and tell my story because, a part of it was I knew I needed to. I knew that was part of the purpose of why this likely happened to me, is because I didn't lose my voice. I didn't lose my ability to tell my truth and continue telling it. And my son also said to me when he was 7, he said, well, Mom, what if you don't tell your story and then other people are like you and then they're afraid to tell their story and they don't come out and tell their story? And I told him there's going to be people that say really bad things and there's going to be people that say good things, and I don't know which way it's going to go. And so, we had to sit down and figure that out as a family, like what's the right thing to do. And ultimately it was to push forward in this direction. And I did. I sat them down and I said, look, I think this story is going to go around the world. And I think this story is going to be very big. And I think that this is going to be very political and very polarizing. And that's not what I want, but people need to know. And sure enough, that's what happened. It gained international attention within weeks, and Canada just dealt with it in July. It's been 3 years of being internationally exposed on all sorts of platforms and big, huge platforms, but mainstream media would only cover the vaccine injury compensation part, and that was just July 5th of 2025.
Wow.
So
Tell us I know what I've read about your case. Am I correct in understanding that at this point you have a lawsuit in place?
yes, I did end up suing Moderna
Yeah.
because I was able to do that. In Canada, we don't have the same laws that they do in the States. So they have immunity in the States. People assume they had immunity here. What they did, and of course they didn't tell any of us this when they were doing it, but what the Trudeau government did is he said, okay, So if I assume Moderna for 45 and I win, then the vaccine company pays me the $45 million, but then the government pays the vaccine company back. And you know where the government gets that money? Yeah, guess the taxpayers. So you've already paid for that vaccine injury compensation program. So the 75 million or whatever that started it or whatever is gone. Okay, so you paid for that and nothing happened. And now, there's two of us that have lawsuits. One, I'm the only one in North America against Moderna. There's one against Pfizer for wrongful death, and otherwise there's just the one class action in Alberta against the actual government. So it's going to be interesting to see how these unfold. But the thing with me is my Moderna vaccine injury, mine will be a trial by jury, and it's a 6-member jury in my hometown of Newmarket. And I expect that there will be a lot of supporters out there that know that what this has done to destroy not only my life but other people's lives. And this could mark a milestone in Canada where you're able to finally hold these companies accountable. And, if I can do it, that will pave the way for other people to be able to do it. And ultimately, that's a great achievement in itself. That to me, that would be an achievement, because then that means, unfortunately there is a time period. You only have two years. I filed 2 years on the anniversary of my injury.
Wow.
But, you do have, and you have to find a lawyer, which is very difficult. A lawyer found me. So it was a lot different in that situation, but you have to speak out. Like, I guess the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and I need to keep squeaking because I need to get the momentum, always to keep the momentum going, because people are so busy and they want to forget all these things. And I don't blame, nobody wants to think about COVID. I mean, that was 5 years ago. We just shouldn't have to be talking about this, but it's really, you really wake up after you go through something like that, no matter who you are. Maybe you wake up more than someone else, or maybe you choose to ignore it. It can go either way. But it's sad that we have to talk about all these things after so long, but it just gets buried. The story, it's like, okay, this happened, and then people just forget about you. So you always sort of have to stay relevant. It's almost like it becomes your career to just say, I'm here.
I'm having so much emotion listening to this because of just thinking of the internal fortitude it's taken for you to do this in your condition. And there's so many other people out there that have had this happen. So I just want to say thank you. I didn't expect to cry on this, but I just have so much gratitude because, you know, of all the things that I've seen, to be in your condition, feeling like, okay, I'm the one that has to pick up this torch and carry it for humanity in Canada. And there's a lot of people that are still denying that this has even happened or that it's even possible.
I think that torch was basically, like, I feel like I remember just looking up to the sky one day and going like, God, why did this happen to me? And I didn't hear a voice. I didn't hear anything. I just heard my own head go, you already know why this would happen to someone like you. You used to be a public speaker. You're not afraid to speak in front of massive crowds. You know what you're talking about as far as this. You're telling the truth. So you're not going to get caught in a lie because you're telling the truth. And you know that it's the right thing to teach your son, that you stand up for something that's wrong. Because I look at, I read a lot of books about the Holocaust and things like that. And I think, could it have been prevented if people were just standing up for it in the beginning and not going and not allowing it? Like, how much of it could have been prevented if there was resistance from the people,
Right?
And so I'm not saying resist the government, don't do anything the government. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying you don't have to accept the things that are going on, and if something is really wrong, people needs to know about it. And, I my biggest fear is that I end up, passing away from a complication of this, and my story dies with me, and that never gets done, and that never happens for other people because of that, and it just gets sort of buried. And I hope that at least there's some people. I've been on a lot of big podcasts, and I hope there's
Who have
people
you been
that
on for people to look at if they want to check out your story on different platforms?
I've I've done so many, I can't even remember all of them.
Yeah, that
I've done, I had a good one with Tammy Peterson. That was a good, I think that was a good podcast. I've just done a couple more that are gonna be coming out. I've done Alex Jones, Alexis Stop. I've done
yeah,
Alexis Stop, sorry. I've
that's
done
okay.
I've done just, a lot of, yeah, big names, and I really hope that, somebody just doesn't, if that happens, that they still continue to hold the people that did this accountable, like that there's somebody that can pick up the torch and go forward. But I worry that that wouldn't happen. So I feel almost like it's my purpose and my mission to make sure that gets done, and that my son sees that as something like, no matter what happens to you, no matter how bad your situation is, you're still here for something. And I don't always think this way either, but I'm still here for a purpose of telling my story and telling people what's going on, especially like politically, and with the healthcare system in Canada, and our free healthcare that everyone thinks we have, and
Remade?
just how, yeah. Yeah, well, that's another thing, yeah, instead of, thinking that I had a life, I was told, "We have this option for you, and it's medical assistance in dying." I didn't ask them to tell me that, and I got all the paperwork, and, I emailed the girl, and said, "Yeah, I wanna fill out the paperwork," and when I found out that I could die within 90 days, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm not ready to say goodbye to my son in 90 days." And that's when it hit me like, "Wait a minute. They were literally ready to euthanize me because A, probably really expensive, and B, there's no help for me, so it's easier to get rid of me and
And you're a
silence me."
voice. And at this point, you're a problem.
Well, yeah. And so I'm like, "Wait a minute, like, doesn't that mean that there's more reason to stand up and talk about this?" Like, how many people do you think are using MAID now just because they're homeless and they don't have money, and they can say, "Yes, I'm in great suffering because, somebody just was euthanized in Ontario for post-COVID-19 vaccine syndrome." Can you tell me what that is? Probably not, because it's just something that someone made up, and basically they, after their COVID-19 shot, they just said, "My life is just too hard to live," and they were granted MAID in Ontario. So all you have to do to get it, even if you're mentally ill or on the streets or anything, if you're having like financial difficulties, it's like, life is too hard, or you're kind of at the bottom of society, well, here, take this. It's like, what is the purpose of this? I thought this was for people that were, foreseeably dying, actively dying, and that
Palliative
Shall
already.
want, yeah, like, literally more than just palliative, be like, they were actively dying and didn't couldn't go through the suffering, and I thought that I was in support of that, but then it's gone way too far, because if you're basically offering it as a solution to life's problems, it's just free suicide. Is it
Or
not?
murder.
Well, it's gotta be at least Canada's suicide program, because it's not it's not meant like, you're not meant to they're telling you basically that you can't solve your problems, but if there were more mental health workers and more programs and more things like that, you don't know that you can't solve your problems. I've been in states where I've felt like that, and I've been able to solve my problems. I know people that have been, in treatment for things, and they've been able to eventually solve their problems, not overnight, but it's basically telling people that their lives are hopeless and that, you know, they should do this. And that's the problem where like it's almost like it's another form of coercion. It's like it's not just me. There are so many people coming forward about this, about being offered MAID, and it's just like, it's terrifying, and people don't realize this, and people are like, "What do you mean? What do you I thought that was for" No, this is real, like, they're talking about parents being able to offer it to newborn children that might have Down syndrome or something. They're talking about, I mean, where do this disease cross the lines morally and things like that? We were having issues with stem cells and embryonic stem cells and things. Well, what about this? Where do we draw the line with this? And I don't have the answers, but I know that the answer isn't offering someone like me or offering somebody that's suffering with an addiction or a mental health problem, a needle instead of that kills them instead of help. That is not that is not the first thing you should be doing. That is how broken our healthcare is.
Yeah.
That is Canada's free healthcare.
I know of someone in their fees that was offered it. She went into her doctor with anxiety and depression and stuff and different, past instances of both. But I'm like, what? Perfectly healthy, maybe with some, muscle stuff and, some different pain stuff
But
going
we
on.
can use that. You're in pain.
Yeah,
You
right.
just say that and you'll get it. Like,
Yeah,
why were you being offered in the first place? Shouldn't you have to actively seek it out?
right.
You're not supposed to be it's not a brochure we hand out.
Yeah,
Like, now it is,
yeah.
but it's like, that's just wrong. Like, the first line of treatment should have been, let's call a therapist, maybe you get someone you can talk to. Maybe there's some medication that you haven't tried, or there's other things to try. Mindfulness techniques, there's all sorts of different therapies, but instead of doing that, it's just cheaper to give her a needle and get rid of her. That's disgusting.
Oh my goodness.
It
So,
kinda makes you think of, like, are they just trying to get rid of all the disabled and, poor people and people with any anxiety, depression, or mental health issues and just, make the world all about people that work really, really hard and bring in lots of money and get rid of all the rest of us? That's what it kinda makes it feel like.
I can see how.
And the world's not doing that to us, the government is. It's not my friends next door that think I should take maids, or the neighbors down the street that think I should take maid, or anybody I've ever spoken to hasn't said, "Have you considered maid?" Nobody has ever said that to me. Like, that's ridiculous, like, that people cannot believe that. That's pretty disgusting. It's not the people around me that are the problem. In fact, when I go to a grocery store or something, I personally find people very helpful and people very disgusted with the conditions of how difficult it is for me to get around or like up a curb cut. I've had young people as young as like, I think the last girl was 23 years old, and she took a picture. She's like, I'm writing to the town and complaining about this curb cut. That's disgusting. And I'm like, sorry, do you mind if I ask how old you are? And she said that she was 23. And I said, that's fantastic that you would A, try to help me, B, that you would want to do something about it and care. And just like, I don't know who raised you, but they did a great job, because that's the kind of people that we need in the world. And I've met a lot of great people that just are just random strangers that are like that. So there are still good people in the world. It's just that, we're led to believe that everything is toxic and everything is bad and everyone hates each other. And the division, and that's not necessarily the truth.
No. So, what would you say? I've seen your story. I've seen a little bit of your past. How did your
Mhm.
upbringing set you up for this?
That's an interesting question. So I was badly abused by my biological um parents when I was an infant. So before I was 10 months old, I had sustained like multiple breaks and fractures, like again, twist breaks and dislocations and things like that all over different periods of time, as well as cigarette burns and things like that. My biological mother was a crack addict and addicted to pills, and she had kids with six different fathers. And then my biological brother was murdered when he was 19. That was the only child that she had kept. And yeah, so that, I mean, then going through the attachment disorder because you didn't have that mother figure, and you got to realize, like, when you're an infant and you cry because you're hungry and you don't know whether you're going to be met with, getting what you need or getting punished, then you start to develop really unhealthy fears and ways of coping just to protect yourself as that infant. Animals do this too. I mean, if you hit a puppy over and over again with a broom, we all know that every time it sees a person, it's going to cower in a corner. So I think that it might have, how would it, I don't know. I think it allowed me to have to go to so much therapy because I was dealing with that. And then meeting my biological parents and the stress of that, I think that maybe all that therapy that I needed because of those things going wrong in my life might have helped prepare me to be able to be where I'm at now. That's what I would say. And also to be so determined to be that person for my son, because I don't ever want my biggest thing was I never wanted to be anything like what my mother did to me. I never ever wanted, I was afraid when I was young that I couldn't have kids because I would abuse them. I just assumed that that's how it would work. And you can ask my son, like, I pulled his ear once as a joke, but we play fight, but that, like, there's that, like, he's not worried about that from, his dad and I are not together, but he has a great relationship with his dad. I have a great relationship with his dad and his stepmom. There's no abuse there. There's no abuse in this house. And it's great because my son is not having those things repeated. And I had to struggle with my own addiction. I became addicted to alcohol when I was quite a bit older than normal people would think. Like, when I was drinking age, I wasn't drinking. But when I became older, I had a situation and it got really stressful. And then I realized, hey, I can sleep and this gets me. And it got into a cycle where it was very bad. It was very difficult to come off of, and I had to do that. And my son knows about it. I'm open with him that, mom struggled with that because that way he can come to me if he ever has the same problems because that's in his genes. Like, unfortunately, my mom's mom was an addict and she's an addict. And then I became addicted to alcohol. So it's in his genetic makeup that could happen. So instead of fearing about it, I just talk to him about it, the dangers, but I'd say, don't drink. I say, you're probably going to try drinking. But if you ever notice that, it gets to this certain point, then this is where you would probably want to seek help. And so at least I feel like that therapy and those things give me the tools to be able to sort of guide my son in the right direction early. And these are sort of preventative things that if I had had, I might not have had to suffer those things, but nobody knew about them back then. So I think part of it is that, and I think that would be I think that's probably the closest answer.
Yeah, because to me, I mean, your spirit is one of resilience and determination.
I think
And
I was kind of born into having to
yeah,
be like that,
yeah, yeah, I agree.
right?
So you said something a little while ago to me, Kayla. You were talking when Alexa was on. And it led me to a question that I had. And being in your state and in your condition right now, how does all this voice activation and AI and robots and stuff play in your, in your function of your daily life?
Sometimes I'm not sure if it helps or it makes it harder
Yeah.
because, like, for example, I obviously can't get down and vacuum and mop my floors. I was OCD clean and that hasn't changed.
Okay.
So I'm very organized. I'm very OCD clean and I want things clean and I want to be able to do it. And so it's very frustrating to be stuck in a chair and not be able to do the things that you want done. And you don't have help to do it, then it's not going to get done. So, you get, like, let's say a robot vacuum, well, that mops and stuff. Well, these things start, first of all, adding up in cost tremendously. Like, who has a $500 to spend on a robot vacuum? Or you have a golden retriever that's shedding everywhere, that's a service dog, but you don't have you can't vacuum. So, like, what are you supposed to do? You don't want to live in mess and create stress in your life, but you also don't have the money to do these things. So that you do end up spending money on technology that you wish you didn't have to spend.
Okay.
Um, for instance, like, I can't clean the kitty litter, so I have a robot kitty litter that cleans the kitty litter, and then, somebody just takes out the bag after. So it's just, like, these things are not things that I would have ever bought or wanted to buy, or even something as simple as the wheelchair accessible van. It's over $100,000 in value because, not because it's a nice van, it's a base model Toyota Sienna. It's not a fancy van and it's ugly and silver. But inside, all that stuff is worth like $40,000. The mechanisms and stuff that hold my chair in and that move the seats and all that stuff. So now it's a luxury item that you have to pay luxury taxes on if you go buy that brand new. Yeah. So, like, all these things that people think are wonderful, they add up a lot more than, you would think. So, I mean, I use my devices for, like, can you remind me to do stuff? That has nothing to do with being in a chair. That's because I'm just so ADD. I'm just like, I go into a room, I have no idea what I went in there for. But, like I always say, I'm singing songs from, every song lyric I know from the '80s while I'm in there going, I don't know why I'm in here. I'm sure a lot of us do that,
Yeah.
but I have to be reminded because I've got so many things, so many medical appointments, like, so, and I have to do it all myself. No one's helping me with my medical appointments. No one's helping me with my prescriptions. I have to be my own pharmacist. I have to make sure that I get all my supplies. I have to make sure my catheters come. I have to make sure that my insulin pump supplies come. I have to make sure that my medications get here on time. Like, it's a full-time job to be sick.
So I was brought to attention to your story looking at looking at a fundraiser that was happening for you. Tell us how it is if there's people listening out there that want to support you or that want to, do something to make your life easier. What would that look like to you?
Well, I do have a website.
Yeah.
It's the www.opkayla.ca. And if you go to /donate, you can donate anywhere in the world in any currency. They don't take a bunch of fees and everything. It goes directly into a corporate bank account in which there's a board of directors that are all veterans, that run the board of that are on the board of directors, and they make sure that the funds are allocated towards health care needs and things, like if there was something that I needed, for instance, like a hospital bed or something like that, things that are needed to make sure that I'm able to continue living at home, whether that be, what if I needed, a nurse to come in when there's no one here and you have to pay that nurse now. That's like $40 an hour. So, I need physiotherapy. Canada's not offering it. It's supposed to be paid for by this vaccine injury compensation program, but they're not paying. So it's cost me over $40,000 so far. It's the only thing that keeps me able to do what I can do now. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. It's true. So, it's $350 a week. Like, my life is very expensive. The supplements that I need to take, the even just vitamins that you're deficient in now because your body's not producing things, like, all these things add up, and I don't get paid. So that website it tells my whole story. It's got everything on it. It's got my contact info. It's got a lot of the podcasts and video clips and things like that. So, like when you and I are done, I'll likely put that podcast up there as well. So I don't run the website, but I'll make sure it gets done. But these podcasts go up there and things like that, and so people can sort of follow along with what's going on. And there's also that way to donate or to contact me through the info at opkayla.ca. So OpKayla stands for Operation Kayla because it is dealt with through military veterans that are retired, and it's a new group of veterans. I started working with Veterans for Freedom, and then I ended my relationship with them, and I've been working with a new group of veterans that it's been really great, and you know that's been helpful. There's still so much that needs to be done, and the money there's just you know the money is just not coming in, and that's hard.
To be clear, that is where I first saw your story, was off your website. I think it was off of, Instagram, and I went to
Okay.
your website. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So tell us any excitement or any visions that you have for your future.
I don't know if this sounds exciting to most people. My vision for my future, I picture myself testifying in the House of Commons regarding the vaccine injury compensation program and what a scam it was to the people and how much of an impact it's had on the victims. And I would really like to do that. I picture myself hopefully at some point in time being able to figure out how to travel like this and to be able to do more public speaking at bigger places because that's what I'm used to. I used to do like I went on stage with Caesar Milan and talked about service dog etiquette. He's the dog whisperer that was all over
Yeah,
TV on Oprah and everything like that.
yeah.
And there was 19,000 people at the Air Canada Center, and I went on with him and did that. So, like, I've spoken in front of large crowds. I'm not afraid to speak. I picture myself doing whatever I need to do to win my Moderna lawsuit. I don't have a fear in the world. I don't think they have any idea how strong of a case I have and how many world renowned people are willing to testify on my behalf as expert witnesses. I'm not concerned about that. I look forward to bringing their name down and showing people that, David versus Goliath, you can look at the story all you want, but David wins. So it might be a David versus Goliath, but that doesn't scare me. My whole life has been that story. So bring it on.
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of people speak, and there's nobody that I'd be more happy to pay a ticket to than to see someone like you. So my hope is that if paid speaking gigs is what you like and wish for, that we can, that happens in your future, because there's a lot of people that need to hear your story, Kayla, and you are a shining example of fortitude and determination from everything I can tell, and motherhood.
Well, I definitely love my son, and then part of this injury meant losing him. I lived with where his dad and I were sharing him, and I'd have him a couple days during the week, and his dad would have him a couple days during the week. It would be alternating weekends and alternating holidays, and doing different things. And then when I had to move somewhere wheelchair accessible all of a sudden because I live 500 meters from my work, and I couldn't go back to work because I was paralyzed and I couldn't take him to school or anything because I couldn't get out my front door. I had a 3-bedroom townhouse, couldn't get up and down the stairs, couldn't get into a shower, couldn't go into a like there I couldn't go anywhere. I was trapped. I was jailed in my it's like worse than house arrest. You're in a wheelchair and you're stuck in a room. So it was absolute torture. Like I was losing my mind, and I had to move. The only place was like 25 minutes away, and that means I couldn't take my son to school. I couldn't see him every day I saw him every day. I worked at a school, and so like even when it was his dad's day, I saw him. So going from seeing your kid every day, except for the weekends when his dad had him, I didn't see him on those weekends. So like 4 days a month not seeing him versus this, like I now have my son every other weekend and we split holidays and stuff because it's not his dad's fault. Like it's not I mean, I don't at all. Like his dad's been great through this as far as us trying to schedule stuff. I mean, we talked this morning about how are we going to do Christmas this year because it's in the middle of the week. Like, it's I know it's my year to have this, but I'll give you this and maybe you can do this or whatever. Like we're good that way.
That's
But it's parenting is just super important. And I mean, I lost my son. Like today's supposed to be the day that I go back to work. It's the first day of school. Today's supposed to be the day that I send my son to school. And I wake up this morning and I'm heartbroken because I see the cold weather and I know that I'm going to start to get locked in the house because I can't get outside. I'm going to be too cold to be outside because my body doesn't produce enough heat. And then I'm going to be stuck isolated in my house, and it gets very depressing. And you really have to watch your mental health, and you have to watch your past addictions don't come back, and you have to work on that. And then there's this part of me that just misses my son so much that it's like having your heart ripped out. It's every time that he has to go back to his dad's, it's having my heart ripped out. Um, because it's not anyone's fault. It's not like I can even blame his dad. It's not like
yeah.
his dad did this, or it's the fault of the fact that I wasn't aware of the fact that this vaccine could do this. It did not say that. So, that's where the fault is. The fault is in the company and their vaccine. And what happened to me, even if it didn't happen to anyone else, it's now been studied that it happens to quite a few people actually. But the fact is that, there's causation there, and it's a very strong case. And I look forward to, like you said, I look forward to winning that in
I
my
look forward to
future.
you winning that too.
Yeah.
So, what do you do to help your mindset and help your motivation and, kind of bring in the good things around you?
Honestly, it's you definitely take it day by day. Some days are easy and some days are awful. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I try to keep my mind busy, but unfortunately, because I have that desire to just sort of jump from one thing to another, and I just want to get things done, and it can be just so frustrating that you're literally like I feel like I've been put in jail for a crime I didn't commit. I'm locked in jail for a crime that I didn't commit. And it's like, you know, that's kind of what it feels like. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for what exactly I do. I try my best to helping other people always helps you sort of help yourself. And so I try to make sure that I'm giving back to other people and trying to reach out because I get a lot of people that message me their stories and they're really sad and it's it happens a lot. Then I just try to give back as much as I can. Do podcasts that helps, things like that. Then I know I'm doing what I can. I might not be able to help disabled children anymore, but I'm at least helping maybe one person in a day or something. That helps me feel a little bit better.
Well, Kayla, I personally want to say thank you for everything that you're doing and who you're showing up as, because I think you are a shining example of more of what we need, some courage, some bravery, some, you've had some hard knocks. You've had a hard life, but this I know is that, this kind of life wasn't given to people unless they can handle it.
So I've been told.
And that probably sounds fairly trite and.
It's not as bad as if you just drink green juice, you'll be all better. Or if have you tried this or have you, or all the people that send me emails about this new product that's going to make me walk again and I'm going, "Oh, I know that they mean well." Some people are just like, "All you have to do is eat properly." And oh my gosh.
Uh,
I don't even know what to say about that. Some of them are sometimes it actually makes me a little bit angry, but sometimes I laugh at it because that's all you can do. And most of the time when someone's like a hater online, you don't have to worry because your other supporters end up going after them anyway, so you don't have to worry about it.
yeah.
So, because I get people that say you're faking, you're grifting. I don't even know where that word came from. I just hear it all the time. You're just trying to get money, you're scamming. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? Like, just come sit in this seat. It's not as comfortable as you think it looks. Like, it's just you think I'm faking because you don't want to know the truth. I think that's what it is. You're just not ready to hear that this is real. You just don't want to believe it. And I wouldn't want to believe it either. So
Well,
I can sort of understand that.
I feel like there's maybe a little bit of disassociation because if people know what has actually happened in the last few years, then we have to look back at some of our reactions to it. And it's like, and then the guilt and the shame of how we handled ourselves or what we asked of people or how we participated, sets in. And we're living through a very tough
But we
time.
should also be feeling those feelings. Like that's a
100%.
normal part of life. So, people always say to me, you were probably one of those people that told everyone to put their masks on and were calling your neighbors. And then on the other hand, I get people telling me I'm an anti vaxxer. And I'm like, well, which one is it? Like it's really crazy. And I'm like, no, actually, I had friends that were very religious that would tell me, no, God knows the day that I will die, and I should not be afraid of this virus. And they didn't take the vaccine, and they didn't believe in it. And I actually still had them to my house. They were my good friends. Yeah, I broke the rules. I never got COVID, but maybe, maybe I don't know, maybe the vaccine knew who broke the rules and only punished us. I don't know. I'm just teasing. That was a joke, Moderna.
So, if you could say anything to someone out there that's, maybe suffering with some of the same, not necessarily the same condition, but maybe has injuries or, in a similar situation, what would you tell them?
For me, my best coping skill for that is I always used to sort of look at myself and I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do this and this is really hurting and this isn't good and I don't feel like that. And I thought like my life is so awful, like it's not possible to live this way. And then I started reading books about things like the Holocaust and the people that lived in the concentration camps. And I realized how much worse that was than what I'm going through. So, as terrible as your situation might seem, there actually is somebody that's got it a lot worse. And if you can empathize with the people that have it worse, I think there's a part of you that starts to accept and empathize with yourself more. but also it helps you learn, how did they do it? How did they have that will to survive? What did they do? And a lot of times you'll find they sort of grouped together or made connections, like interpersonal connections or whatever that might be. Like, there's all sorts of different stories and books and audiobooks and things like that that you can listen to about those things. And that really helped me a lot. Even YouTube, that really helped me to learn, like, hold on, like, if these people can do these things and all these other people can, come back from, just all sorts of illnesses and all sorts of things, then, my life can be lived too. That's really helped me a lot. So that would be my best advice. That's what I do. I don't know what other people do to cope, but that's really helped me. And I do that daily.
Well, thank you, Kayla. We appreciate you coming on. We're going to be following your story. We are
Thanks.
going to be visualizing the best outcome for yourself with your legal battles.
You don't
Uh,
have to visualize, you'll watch it on TV.
I'm going to watch it before it happens.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you and your voice so much.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm hoping that this also helps you boost your podcast and your community and doing what you're doing to give back as well.
Thank you, Kayla.
Thank you.